Do you live with ankylosing spondylitis or axial spondyloarthritis? Well, this video is definitely for you. What would it mean to rebuild trust with our bodies? That's a big concept, I know. But that's really the crux of this video and session. Sometimes we can get into this cycle of being in fight, flight, constantly feeling like we're waging a war, trying desperately to reduce symptoms, feeling guilty when we don't meet our expectations, crashing, and the cycle repeats. Now, this AS warrior or arthritis warrior mindset can be helpful in the beginning. I was there, I was in the front line battling every day, but it was exhausting. And learning how to actually rebuild trust with my body, have more compassion and care towards myself, really made a huge difference to my quality of life. And I've seen that in many people I've worked with as well along the way. And with that, I'm going to share what to expect from this session. This is a recording of a live online pop-up class that was ran by myself and Helen Jones. Helen Jones is a coach and psychologist who lives with AS herself, and I'm a PT, yoga teacher, and coach living with AS as well. The first half of the session is an accessible yoga practice modified for people with AS, where you can learn how to move safely, calm your system down, and find an entry point that works for you. All you need is a chair on a non-slip surface. The second half of the session is a coaching workshop ran by Helen, where you're going to learn how to begin that process of rebuilding trust and learn how to really build more compassion and build strategies in place to move from that cycle that I was mentioning earlier. And all you'll need is a notepad and pen. And if you have any takeaways or reflections from this video, please leave a comment under this video, and it'd be really amazing to hear your experience. And finally, if you want to connect more with either myself or Helen, you can do so in the description under this video. Okay, so very warm welcome to everyone. Really so lovely to see so many of you joining live. And I'll also say welcome to those who are on a catch-up recording of this session. So I'm going to kind of just introduce the session on my end, and then when Helen does the second half of the session, she'll do the same. But first of all, just well done for getting here and taking the time out of your day to show up, and for some people try something new. And it's just really lovely to see lots of faces. So what to expect from this section of the session is some very accessible yoga practice modified for AS or axial SPA. It's mostly going to be using a chair, to a chair, from a chair. There'll be some additional options, but everyone should be able to find a accessible entry point. Do what you can. You might just want to watch half of it. For some of you, you might want to do bits in and out. There is no right way to attend this session today. It's just about giving your body what you need and really listening to that. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to get started. And the theme of this session, as you know, is really about moving our perspective away from this kind of fight and the onslaught of pushing against resistance. And what we're going to try and focus on to do today is coming back to our body and thinking, what would it mean to trust our body a little bit more physically from a somatic physical perspective. So what we're going to do to start this practice is just to get into a comfortable seated position, whatever that means for you. So you could be sitting on a chair, sitting on a floor, you could have some support under the back, but you're just going to get comfortable. And maybe if it feels comfortable, softening or closing your eyes. And we're going to come into a very simple breathing practice now. And what this will look like is taking your hands onto the lower part of the rib cage and just from there beginning to feel the natural rise and fall of your breath. without the need to do anything to your breathing at all. Just noticing your breathing here. And what we're going to start to intentionally do is think about breathing into the hands. So as our hands are on the rib cage, that lower section of the rib cage, we're breathing into the hands and feeling the hands move outwards. And what we're going to do from here, you could take the hands away if it's more comfortable now, but just keeping that focal point on keeping the breath in the lower section of the rib expansion and contraction. We're not breathing through the ribs, of course, it's through our diaphragm, but we're trying to bring our attention into the expansion of the rib cage, which can allow us to then bring some slow, deep breaths in. Now from here, what we're going to start to think about doing, you don't have to breathe in a special rhythm or do anything complicated, is what would it mean to breathe more quietly? What would it mean to breathe more gently? And what would it mean to breathe more slowly? So quite often when people think about taking a big deep breath in, we associate that with calming the system down. But actually, learning to breathe quietly and reduce our breathing volume is actually the most efficient way to bring our body into a state of physiological calm. We don't have to complicate it at all. Just breathing quietly, slowly, and gently. And if your airways allow it, breathing through the nose and trying to maintain nasal breathing throughout this practice together. As you're continuing these very slow, quiet breaths, maybe noticing if there's any heaviness or tension in the shoulders. What would it mean to just allow the shoulders to fall away? Noticing if there's any scrunching or deep frowning in the brow. What would it mean to just allow the brow to soften here as well? Got a few more moments focusing in on this intentional, slow, quiet, calm breathing. And know that this type of breathing is going to lower our heart rate, send a signal to our system that we're safe. Which is a good preparation for a physical practice. A few more moments of focus here. So when you're ready, if you have the eyes closed, you can open the eyes. And we're going to come to stand. We're going to have a seat facing us, the seat of a chair facing us, and making sure the chair is on a non-slip surface. And we're going to start by just standing tall, whatever that means for you today, allowing the arms to relax down. We're going to go for a little warm-up sequence just to get some warmth into the body and begin to loosen up. So we're going to reach the arms forward in front of us, or up overhead, or out to the side, whichever feels comfortable. Breathing in here. Breathing out, taking the hands to either the backrest of the chair or the seat of the chair. Bend the knees generously and begin to bow forward. Straighten the arms. You can keep a soft bend there. Look to flatten out the back slightly. And then step the feet back 2 to 3 feet. Bend the knees generously. Lift the hips up. And from here, you can just shift your weight from side to side. You can bend the knees. You can straighten one leg, then the other. But you're just going to encourage some movement here. Or you could come to a point of stillness as well. Totally up to you. Walk back up to the chair. Straighten the arms. And then bow towards the chair. Bend the knees generously. Reach the arms back up. Breathe in. And breathe out. Good. Let that settle for a moment. And let's go again. Breathing in. Reaching the arms up. Breathing out, hands to the chair. Beginning to bow forward. Coming up halfway, straightening the arms. And then stepping back 2 to 3 feet, lifting the hips up, bending the knees as much as you need here. Again, you could shift your weight from side to side or come to a point of stillness. Come up to the chair, halfway, so look to find a bit of a straight lifting of the pelvis, and then bow back forward. Reach up, breathe in, breathe out. Let that settle down. I'm going to just spend a moment here. We're going to do one more. Let's reach the arms up. Take a breath in. Breathe out, hands to the chair. Come forward. Breathe in. Lift the pelvis up. Straighten the arms. Breathe out. Walking back. Again, you can welcome some movement here. You can bend the knees quite generously. You can then lift the hips. We don't have to stay static here. Step your feet back to the chair. Breathing in. Breathing out, bowing forward. Bending the knees generously, reaching up. Exhale, reaching back down. Good, and we're just going to let that settle again, coming to a moment to stand still. Let that settle. You can move around or you can be completely still. It's up to you. Good. So we're going to start to think about working from the ground up now. We're going to start with our hamstrings. As we know with AS, they can get really tight, and just reaching and hoping for the best in doing a static stretch isn't always helpful. So we're going to do a bit of dynamic movement to open up the hamstrings and hips. You have a few options. You could start with the hands to the backrest of the chair, or you could have the hands on the seat of the chair. It's your choice. If you have more range of motion, you could have the hands further down on some blocks or something equivalent. And what we're going to do is bending the knees, both knees, into a tiny little squat, and then straightening just the left leg whilst keeping the right knee bent. Shift your weight towards the left leg. Hold for a few moments, and then squat back down with both legs. Straighten the right leg. Shift towards the right leg. Little squat down. Straighten the left leg. Shift towards the left leg. Keeping the heels on the floor, toes on the floor, so not lifting the feet up. And we're just going to be alternating between right and left here. Having the chair quite close to you. This movement is called elephant walks. We're going to spend a little bit of time here. If at any point you need to rest, you can come out early. If anything gets too intense for you, remember, it's not about trying to go into your deepest stretch. Think about just meeting the sensation, like where is the first entry point of the stretch? Start there. Then over time, you can start to fall into a deeper position. But when we try to reach too far too soon, we get something called a stretch reflex, where our system goes, whoa, 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 we're going too far too soon, and it will actually lock us up, which is quite interesting because that is both literally true and figuratively as well. Just ease your way in, and you can make gradual inroads over time. Really, really well done, everyone. So let's stop there when you're ready. And we're going to come up to stand and just take a pause. Nice. So we're going to start to think about a passive stretch now for the hamstrings, lower, mid back, depending on which option you pick. So option one is going to be a forward fold from a chair. So the starting point would be forearms to the thighs or hands further forward and allowing the crown of the head to relax down. Or you could have the hands on something like a stool. The next option would be hips to the wall. So have your bum to the wall and a chair in front of you, bending the knees generously. And you can have the hands onto the backrest, hands onto the chair, seat of the chair, or forearms. Next option would be to be free standing, allowing the arms to relax down or even holding onto the elbows, allowing the crown of the head to relax down here. You can bend the knees generously, and that will keep the stretch more in the middle of the spine. If we lift the hips, we'll feel the stretch more in the hamstrings. Remember, one is you're not here to try and push to the most extreme version. Where on this journey can you find just a moderate stretch where you're just meeting that sensation and know over time there's space for you to go further if you wish. But start with less, ease your way in over time. Start to tune into your breathing as you're in this position. What would it mean to maybe breathe a little bit quieter, slower, gentler? When you're ready, you are standing, which is going to come up halfway first. Take a little pause and then gradually make your way all the way up. You are seated on a chair, again, just making your way up slowly over time. Good. So just letting that settle. You can move around. You could come to a point of stillness. It's up to you. But we're going to move on to think about the middle of our back, the thoracic spine now. A little bit of hamstrings, A little bit of lower back as well. So kind of just moving up a little bit. And this is a really great stretch that you can do just on a tabletop or in between working at a desk. So it's cat-cow tabletop. So what this will look like is your hands will be on the edge of the chair. You're going to actively try and tuck your pelvis under. So a posterior tuck of the pelvis. So you're trying to kind of reduce the lift of your hips and actively pressing the hands into the edge of the chair, rounding the upper back. If you've ever done a cat-cow, you're thinking about the cat portion and then breathing in. And then as you breathe out, you're going to begin to drop your chest down, lift your hips up, and feel a stretch into the middle of your spine. Good. We're going to go between those two positions. So pressing the hands into the chair, tucking the pelvis under, breathing in, breathing out, hips lifting up, chest dropping down. And you're going to spend a few seconds in each. Hands pressing into the chair, tucking the pelvis under, rounding the upper spine. And then breathing out, hips lifting up, chest dropping down. To keep this going, it's not about trying to do a huge degree of movement. Any form of movement is perfect. It's a subtle movement between that posterior tuck of the pelvis and anterior lift of the pelvis. The feeling between the lower back hamstrings and the middle of the back and the shoulders. I'm going to be here for a few more moments. Awesome. Slowly come up to stand. Take a pause. Let that settle in. Again, you could just shake things out or come to a nice still position. Great. So we're going to do a static version of that same stretch now. So no longer moving between that two positions, and instead we're going to be static, hands to the edge of the chair, lifting the hips up and holding that position in stillness. Now you can turn the thumbs to face up for a bit of a deeper stretch between the shoulder blades. Chest dropping down. Bending the knees generously. So if you're feeling like you need to adjust throughout and you're having to kind of wiggle around quite a lot, you're probably stretching too far. So I'd recommend going to just a very gentle entry point. So you might be quite high up and you're just gonna see, okay, I can stay here. And then maybe, okay, we could just go an inch further. Of course, if you're experiencing pain or discomfort, we really come out or reduce the intensity. But what we're working towards is being able to be still and allow this stretch sensation to accumulate. Once we're in the position and we're in a still position, we're then focusing in on our breathing. What would it mean to just breathe a little bit quieter, softer, slower? You're doing so well. Whichever point you're at, if you're just observing today, that's perfect. Doing what you can. Slowly, we'll come up to stand. And we'll pause. And again, we might want to shake things out, move a little bit. And we might want to come to a point of stillness. Awesome. So we're going to face the backrest of the chair now. Facing the backrest of the chair. Going to have the right foot facing forward and we're going to step the left foot back. I'm going to tilt my camera down ever so slightly. So if where your chair is, there was a clock, we're thinking the front of the chair, the right foot is at 12 o'clock. It's facing forward. The left foot is at about 10 o'clock at a 45-degree angle. And we're going to press the left foot into the floor and take the left hand onto the front of that left hip. Now we're going to start to pull the elbow back. Think about that left side of the chest, turning up towards the ceiling. Now this might be enough of a stretch. You're experiencing a bit of a stretch in the groin, a bit of stretch in the hip, and that might be enough. We can ensure the shoulders are open to the side of the room, so left to the left of you. We're not trying to square the shoulders. If we want to go further, what we could start to do here is take the forearm onto the backrest of the chair. Elbow pulling back, that left elbow pulling back, and this might be enough. Keeping that right knee bent, pressing the left foot into the floor. This might be more than enough. If we want to go further, we could take the left hand onto the left shoulder, putting that left elbow back. This might be more than enough. If we want to go a step further, we could take that left arm up overhead, left ear towards the left arm. Press the left foot into the floor. Pressing the left foot into the floor, and whichever position you're in, try to maintain your breathing here. Don't hold your breath. Doing really well. I'm going to be here for just a few more moments. You can rest at any point you need. You can always come out early. And then slowly release. Take a pause. Shake things out as you need to. Let's get ready for the other side. So again, thinking 12 o'clock with your left foot. Right foot back at about 2 o'clock, 45-degree angle. Press the right foot into the floor, bend that left leg. So the left knee begins to come forward. You don't have to worry too much about the angle. It's just you're bringing some weight into that left leg as well. Pressing the right foot into the floor, you're open to the right side of the room, to the right of you. Shoulders are open. This might be more than enough, or we could take the left forearm onto the chair, right elbow pulling back. Press the right foot into the floor. This might be enough, or we take the right hand onto right shoulder, pulling that right elbow back, pressing the right foot into the floor. This might be enough, or we could reach the right arm up overhead, right ear towards the right arm. Whichever position you're in, press the right foot into the floor. Think about that right side of the chest opening up towards the ceiling. And then slowly release. Come back to stand. And again, you can shake things out. You can come to a point of stillness. It's really up to you. Awesome. Okay. So we're gonna finish up with a little bit of shoulder and neck work and hoping to reduce some of that neck stiffness. And so we're gonna start by standing and then taking the arms out wide, palms facing up. We can have the hands a little bit lower or hands a little bit higher. It's completely up to you. And then we're going to rotate the right hand down, then the thumb. And if that's enough of a stretch, we stay there. To go a bit further, we turn to look over the left. As much as is comfortable. Right hand back to center, then left hand down, then the thumb. Turn to look over the right. Back to center. And then right shoulder internally rotating, turning over to the left, back to center, and then switch. So we're going to be going between right and left, right and left. So this is mobilizing our shoulders and our neck. If we create a fist, this will intensify the sensation in your shoulders slightly. Go easy here. Less is more. If it gets too much, you could take the hands a little bit lower down. And at any point, you could have a rest, shake it out, move your shoulders around, do some shoulder rolls, whatever you need. Be here for a few more moments. And then stop there. Take some nice big shoulder rolls, lifting up and then down the back of the body. Nice big shoulder rolls, lifting forward, up, and then down the back of the body. Brilliant. Nice. Stand nice and tall now, or you could do this seated. So sit nice and tall, stand nice and tall, up to you. And I want you to imagine you're holding weights with both the arms. And from here, I want you to be very, very gentle with this and only go just an inch at a time. We're going to begin to take our chin towards the top of the right shoulder. So it's a slight downwards rotational movement, just until you begin to feel a stretch on that left side. That might just be as we actively reach that left arm away. This might be more than enough of a stretch. Some of you might find there's more range and your chin will come further, but only go to a point of just gentle sensation. Come back to center. Breathe in. Breathe out. Chin towards the top of the right shoulder. Relax that left shoulder down. Come back to center. Doing really good. Breathe in. Breathe out. Chin towards top of the right shoulder. Come back to center. Breathe in. Breathe out. Go again. Breathe in. Back to center. Reaching that left hand away. Breathe out. One more time. Good. Release there. Take your right hand to that left side of the shoulder. So between the shoulder and the neck, that sensation we just felt, we're just placing it there. We're just going to apply a little bit of a gentle massage here. Good. Shake out the shoulders. We're going to do the other side. So this might start by just simply reaching that right arm down towards the floor. This might already create a very gentle stretch on that right side. That might be more than enough. To go a step further would be the chin towards the top of the left shoulder. Hold for a few seconds. Then come back. Breathe in. Breathe out, chin towards the top of the left shoulder. Come back. Go again. Chin towards the top of the left shoulder. Just a small few inches of movement, not far. Back to center. Let's do two more. Breathe in. Breathe out, chin towards the top of the left shoulder. Last one, take a breath in. Reaching that right arm away and down. And then back to center, left hand to that right side now. In the back of the shoulder, just gently applying a bit of a massage. Good. Take some nice big shoulder rolls here now. And very, very well done. That's our physical part of the session done. We're going to come to a little relaxation now and chill out for a little bit. So you'll need a chair and ideally you'll need some cushions. So at least a cushion For the head, a cushion for the hips. You could have more cushions as well. There's going to be two options. You could either come to the floor in a moment, or you can start and rest on a chair. For those resting on a chair, I'd recommend having the chair to a wall so it's not going to move. So your shoulders are able to go back, and then a cushion behind the head, and also a cushion behind the lumbar. And this is just a way we can relax seated. If we want to come to lie down, you can take a cushion or two. You could also do this lying down on a bed. You could come to lie on a sofa. Whatever's comfortable. What I'm going to offer is just an option that works for 80% of people with AXSPA, I would say. And within that, there is so much we can adjust and do, but we're going to take the legs up onto the chair, supporting the head as we need to, supporting the hips as we need to, at least a cushion under the hips, maybe two. You could also have a belt or strap or band or equivalent around the thighs. So if the knees try and fall open, they will just fall into that band or belt. Arms by the side, palms facing up, or you could just have the hands wherever you like, resting on the abdomen. We're going to start by maybe softening or closing the eyes, wherever's comfortable. And that simple breathing practice we did at the very beginning, simple breathing practice we did at the very beginning, we're going to come back to. I'm going to start to think about what would it mean to breathe just a little bit slower here, quieter, through the nose. What would it mean to be more comfortable here? Is there anything else you need? Or maybe that it's a case of allowing ourselves to be as we are, not trying to fix or change anything, just allowing yourself to settle in. You don't have to relax. You don't have to achieve anything. You just have to be here as you are and experience that. Know that that's okay. You might begin to feel the softness behind the eyes, maybe leaning towards a bit of a heaviness. Noticing the brow maybe just begin to soften, relax slightly. Maybe noticing a feeling of release in the mouth or jaw. What would it mean for the shoulders to feel heavy? What would it mean to allow the belly to completely be as it is? What would it mean to not hold any engagement or tension? What would it mean to allow the belly just to be as it is, naturally?
Noticing your fingers, drawing your awareness to your toes, noticing the thighs, knees, shins, calves, noticing your belly, chest, collarbones, base of the throat, noticing the neck, shoulders, noticing your back, noticing the whole body as one, and then coming back to noticing your breath, not doing anything in particular to your breathing, the rhythm of your breathing now, just noticing your breathing. And beginning to picture the room that you're in. Maybe welcoming a yawn. Maybe beginning to move the fingers, the toes, the ankles and wrists. Maybe coming into a big overhead stretch. Awakening slightly, and then rolling onto one side. Spending some time there. If you're seated, coming slightly further forward. And if you're lying down, slowly making your way up to a seat. You can still keep the eyes quite soft or closed even. Just taking a moment to settle back in to a comfortable seat. Noticing your toes, feet on the floor. Noticing how you're feeling in your body. Hopefully just a little bit calmer, a little bit more ease there. Most importantly, thank yourself for showing up and listening to your body and moving and working with your body. So very, very well done, everyone. Great job. There'll be time for us to go through questions and go into further detail at the end of the session. Just know today is really scratching the surface of what to expect from a yoga frayas type session. There's also strength training classes, some deeper relaxation classes, some more flow-based classes, something for everyone. And that's always available. So for today, very well done. And I'm going to pass over to Helen and see you all very soon.
Hi everyone. Feel very relaxed after that. That was a very nice way to start the whole session. So thank you, Jamie. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So can everyone see my screen okay? Yeah, great. Okay, let me just get it so I can see you guys. Ah, there we go. Okay. Oh, so yeah, I feel very relaxed now. That was a very good start to this part of the session. And before, yeah, before I begin, just for any of you guys who don't know me, I'm Helen Jones. I'm a coach and psychologist, and I live with AS and fibromyalgia. And I guess just to share a bit about my own experience before we get into this part of the session, um, and why I wanted to work in this space was when I was diagnosed. I felt lots of people talked about the physical side of the condition, but nobody really prepared me for how hard the mental side would be. And when after I was diagnosed, I sort of felt like my world kind of turned upside down, and I was this really active, energetic, really sociable person, and for me that there was a big identity shift. I felt very kind of trapped in my body that wouldn't cooperate. And I'm sure like a lot of you experience, I sort of experienced that grief for my old self. And I was just constantly sort of fighting to get back to old me and pushing through, overdoing it, searching to kind of fix and control what was happening with my body. And it took me a while to kind of learn that this didn't work. And it was all kind of connected to me not accepting what I had. And slowly and surely, I learned kind of how to work with my body a lot more rather than against it. But I just want to point out that I'm not saying that I do this every time. There are still moments where I fight this for sure. But for me, the difference between now that I kind of more often than not work with it, the difference for that experience and those two responses, I can really notice the difference in my suffering between the two. So I basically wanted to use the skills that I had and then my own experience to basically help others that are navigating this part of the condition. So this part of the session is going to look at what we're going to do is look at the fight that goes on internally in us and then move on to exploring gently how we can change our response and really start to rebuild that trust in ourselves. But I want to make sure that this is kind of individual to each of you. I know we're a big group and it's great seeing so many of you here. So I'm gonna throughout it do a few kind of guided questions. So if everyone can have their pens and notepads ready, just to sort of jot down some answers to the questions. Um, and I always say, just remember that no one can see your answers. No one's going to see them. So please be as honest as possible, because that will help you get the most out of it. And then we'll have the Q&A at the end, where with both me and Jamie, and everyone can join and ask whatever questions you want. It doesn't have to be about this topic, just any questions that people have, bring to the table. So as I shared just there, my own experience, what I realized is that living with AS isn't just the physical symptoms. Yes, you've got the pain, the stiffness, the fatigue, but there was this huge internal experience that comes with it, such as that anger when a flare comes on, that anger towards your body, or that frustration when it doesn't cooperate. And I know from talking to my clients and a lot of you guys that there's that fear that's very, very present with AS of it might get worse. How will I cope with that in the future? And I think another huge emotion that really comes up is grief for that person that you used to be. So often, without actually realizing it, what we do is we end up fighting those emotions just as much as the symptoms themselves. So let's move on to look at how the fight shows up. So this fight, this internal fight that I'm talking about, sometimes it looks like pushing through pain and fatigue because resting can, a lot of people can feel like it's giving in or that the AS has won if you rest. And sometimes it looks like saying yes to lots of plans when you're feeling good because you're actually denying the reality of a fluctuating condition and you're really trying to keep up with that old version of yourself. Equally, sometimes the fight is tied to identity. So, using myself as an example, I've always seen myself as someone who is high energy, fun, always up for things. And so there have been times where I've pushed through pain and fatigue just to keep being kind of that version of myself, or at least at the start, I was doing that a lot, even when my body was asking for something different. So part of the fight can also be actually fighting to hold on to that identity we had before AS. And I don't know if that resonates with a lot of you. Um, Other times it can show up in these cycles. I put here fixing and control cycles. And that is going into kind of jumping into fixing mode and being really kind of extreme and strict with whether it's your diet, your routine, and being really, really strict. And then eventually going, oh, screw it, and going completely the other way and sort of jumping between those two extremes. Or another way it might show up is pushing yourself really, really hard with movement or activity and then crashing, feeling guilty for then causing a flare. Or it could go the opposite way where you're actually too scared to cause the flare. And so you don't want to move at all through that fear. But I use all of those examples just to kind of show that these patterns are often coming from a deeper place because they're often attempts to avoid or push away the emotions that come with living with AS. So obviously I've listed here a few: anger, frustration, fear, which I've already mentioned quite a few of them, disappointment and jealousy. I think jealousy can be an emotion that it's a I think it's emotion that people really don't like to recognize in themselves, but it's there definitely when you're living with these things. So the fight isn't just physical, it's fighting the emotions and the reality of the condition as well. So we're going to do our first reflection bit. So if everyone gets their pens, I just want you to take a moment to answer this question. So, where do you notice yourself fighting your body the most right now? So, it might be pushing through, or it might be trying to fix everything or control things, or it could be making plans that don't account for your current capacity and actually resisting the reality of how things are today. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to think about that one. Okay. And then our second question for this part relating to that is, what emotions are you feeling strongest right now in relation to your health? Oh, someone's raised their hand. How do I?
So just to jump in quickly, Dina, if you're raising your hand because you have a question, if it's okay, um, please, yeah, if it's a question about the session, we're going to have a long chance for a Q&A at the end. But if it's, yeah, if that's okay.
If anyone isn't sure of anything though, just pop the question in the chat. But let's go on to question. Yeah. Oh no, we did number two. Just to give you guys some ideas for what emotions might be feeling strongest right now. I know I listed some, but just think about where you're fighting your body before, and yeah, what's that underlying emotion there? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it that grief for that old you? Or is it fear that's loudest at the moment? So first of all, here, even just recognizing and acknowledging and naming the emotion, that just starts to enhance our relationship with our body. And it also enables us to separate ourselves from that emotion slightly. Because when they're inside us, they can feel so part of us. But even just giving it a name just starts to create that separation that it's an emotion moving through us. It isn't us. Okay, so we're going to go on to, we've looked at then how the fight shows up in us. So now I want to look at the pattern it creates. So the internal fight cycle. And this is a pattern that many people with these long-term health conditions fall into. So rather than just explaining this, let me give you an example of how this might look in real life. So let's say they wake up with feeling that sort of heavy fatigue in the morning, more than usual. So here the trigger might be fatigue or the start of a flare or that stiffness, that morning stiffness. So then that brings up an emotion. And maybe that emotion is frustration, like, why is this happening today? You might have lots of plans on or things you're really excited for, and that frustration there. But perhaps the emotion is fear, or they're together with fear. What if this means it's getting worse? And then that's when the fight response kicks in. So this person, they might push through anyway because, as I said, they had commitments and they don't want their condition to define what they do. They ignore the signals from their body, they stick to their full plan for the day, and maybe they even push harder, trying to keep on top of it. And then eventually they crash, and by the afternoon they're exhausted or their symptoms are worse. And then actually they might have to cancel some plans anyway. And then that often leads on to this self-criticism of, I've caused this, or I should know better, or I need to try harder next time. And then the cycle can kind of start again. And as I'm saying that, you might recognize parts of that in your own experience, or it brings up maybe, one example in your head that you can think of when this happened. So let's do our next reflection. Okay. So I want you to think back to a recent example and what happened in your internal fight. So like the picture here, I want you to name the trigger, the emotion or emotions, the fight response, and then the crash and the self-criticism. And again, right now we're just building that awareness of our own patterns and what happens. A few of you might be wanting to jump to, right, how do we fix this? How do we solve it? But we're just looking at building that awareness at the moment. Okay, so hopefully you guys have written down different parts to each of your own cycle. So if this feels familiar, the next question then is how do we step out of this cycle? And I wanted to bring up this concept of a false choice because many people feel like they're facing a choice with this. Either I beat it, this fighter in us, I push harder, I beat this, or I give in and stop trying. And sometimes people see that as almost acceptance. And I remember I used to have this image of myself and I called it this image of myself thriving with AS. And as I described her, I I realized actually that version was someone who didn't have AS and had none of the symptoms. And so it was someone who had fought it and beaten it. And then on the other side, I had this image of me giving in, laying in bed and unable to move, in pain all the time. And I imagined them as, very closed off and not wanting to socialize because I couldn't socialize in the way that I wanted to. And human beings we're very black and white thinkers, and we like to box things into categories. But this can sometimes make us believe that it's one or the other. But in reality, these two things can coexist at the same time. You can be making choices that support your health and improvement while also accepting where you are right now. So I want you to really start to understand that acceptance and improvement can exist at the same time. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's simply acknowledging the reality of where your body is today, right now, so that you can respond more wisely and kindly to yourself instead of fighting your reality, which actually just creates more suffering for yourself. Because I think you guys can all see me okay. We've got we've got layers to pain and suffering, and you've got the primary pain, which is the physical pain from the symptoms. And then we've got this what's called secondary pain, which is the additional suffering on top of that. And that additional suffering is through our emotional reaction and our interpretation of the symptoms and the pain that's going on. So this is where interrupting that cycle, that fighting internal fight cycle, we look at responding. Okay, so this is where the shift comes in. And here, what we're doing is we're responding to our body's current needs rather than fighting against it. And this isn't just about what we do, it's also about our responding to the emotions that show up. So instead of fighting the frustration, the fear, the guilt, what we're learning to do, even just by naming it, like I said, we're learning to notice them, allow them, and not let them drive our actions. Strength isn't built through fighting. And as we see in the world around us, war doesn't build trust. Trust grows when something feels listened to. And the same very much applies to our bodies. So when we respond rather than react, we start creating a different relationship with our bodies. So I've given some examples here, but responding might look like, rather than pushing through pain, actually adjusting to what your body needs. Or perhaps instead of saying yes to however many social plans, you actually stop and you adjust the plans to match your energy. And then another one is that control piece that I spoke about earlier, that people that like to try and control everything. Actually, you feel like you're being productive, but it's still fighting your body. And there comes some power in actually starting to experiment with curiosity, accepting that sometimes things are going to flare, but approaching it in that really curious way. Because each time you respond rather than fight, you're sending a signal to your body that it's being listened to. And that's actually how trust slowly starts to rebuild. So what I want you to do is I want you to reflect back to that internal fight cycle that you just answered the question to. And I want you to look specifically at your fight response. And I want you to write down an answer to this next question. Instead of this fight response, what would a compassionate response look like to these emotions?
Helen, just to jump in, somebody's asking in the chat to just repeat that question quickly, if that's
Oh,
okay.
yes, sure. So I can't see the chat. Uh, so that question was, and I want you guys to look back at your answers to the previous question with that fight response. And instead, what would a compassionate response look like to these emotions? Okay, and then most people finished. Yeah. Okay. And then the second question is, what would working with where you are right now look like? So, for example, it might be incorporating some rest breaks into your day instead of pushing through, or it might be adjusting your plans to match your energy instead of just saying yes to everything. Or it could be recognizing, actually, right now I'm in a flare and I'm just going to focus on getting through it when treating myself with kindness rather than trying to fix anything at this stage. That's such a common one when we're in flares, is wanting to fix it and jump ahead and work out how to prevent it from next time. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do with your body is to just focus on getting through it. So I'll just repeat that question again. What would working with where you are right now look like? Okay, so we'll go on to the next bit now. And obviously, feel free to come back to some of these questions after in your own time. But hopefully you've got some ideas down there. So once we stop fighting where we are, the next question becomes, well, how do we still move forward? Because sometimes people worry that if they stop fighting their body, that they'll then stop progressing in life, which is important as human beings in this world that we live in. And that's where values come in. And well, I'll explain. Yeah, so values are different from goals. Goals can sometimes be blocked by symptoms or flare-ups. You could set these big goals or set these, plans for what you want to do, but actually a flare-up can come on, symptoms can change, something in your body can stop that. Whereas what values are their directions. We can still move towards whatever is happening with our bodies. So I've given some examples here. So the goal might be to do, let's say, 3 workouts a week. So then the value here is movement. That's something that no matter what, we can find that value of movement. Or perhaps the goal someone had was to attend every social event. Well, actually, here the value then is connection. And then another example, perhaps a goal is having a symptom-free day or symptom-free period. But actually, then here the value is caring for your health. So no matter what comes your way, you can still live in this way that is prioritizing caring for your health. So what values do is they give us the flexibility to adjust to our capacity whilst still moving towards what matters to us. And it helps you really feel like you're going forward, which is important, as I said. So instead of asking how do I push through this, what we can ask instead is, what matters to me right now, and how can I move towards that in a way that works with my body today? So let's go back to those examples again. So if you value movement, then perhaps today looks like some gentle stretching instead of a full workout. And you're still going to get that very important value to you of movement, but it's just looking a little bit different. Likewise, if you value connection, then maybe it looks like a short call, if fatigue is high or something like that, then it's a short call rather than cancelling completely and not having any of that social connection, which is so important. The final example I've just shared is that learning. So say you value learning, but maybe it looks like listening to something inspiring whilst you rest rather than studying for uni or something like that. So as you can see, what values do is they allow us to keep moving toward what matters without needing to fight our bodies. So I want to just do an example to finish on with you guys. So I've just put some example values here, but really values, there are so many values out there. I've mentioned movement already, and connection. I don't know if they're not on that list. There's a whole list of values. Nature, being outdoors, those are values. So I want you to take a moment now, and I want you to think about one value that feels important in your life right now. And then I want you to ask yourself, how could I honor that value this week in a way that works with my body rather than against it? So you pick the value. Choose that value that really right now feels really important in your life. And that values can change. That's what's great about them, is we can pick and choose them. How might I honor that value this week in a way that works with my body right now, where it's at, rather than against it? Okay, so hopefully you guys have picked a value that you can really put into action this week and actually honor that value and still live in line with it. Because rebuilding trust doesn't, rebuilding trust with your body, it doesn't mean that symptoms disappear, because we can't guarantee that. But what it does mean, it's learning how to respond to your body and your emotions in a different way, and continue to move towards what matters most in your life along the way. And that's how slowly and steadily we really start to build that trust again with our bodies. So hopefully, writing down some of your own answers there, you got to see a little bit more about where your fight is showing up and how you can start responding instead of reacting and fighting, and gradually start to really build that trust again with your body and live in a values guided way that is not impacted by when symptoms show up. There's still ways that you can live like that. So I just wanted to say that hopefully that's helped you. And as I said, I don't get this perfect every time, but it helps me definitely, and that it reduces that overall suffering that you have, and it makes flares and pain and all of that much easier to handle when you take away that second layer of suffering. So just wanted to share my details there at the end as well, because if any of you were interested in working with me one-to-one, then I offer a free 30-minute intro call so we can meet and see if this would be a good fit for you with where you're at right now. So yeah, my details are there, and you can book it via my Instagram or website, or you can email me. So I'd love to hear from you guys.